Hello, viewers, and today is 13th of November, and it's 13th day since we have started version 2.0 of the Circle of Legends. You may have seen the presentations and several of our activities. So, as a part of that, we have started with this Learning to Learn program, which is basically meant for parents, students, and educators. It has been successfully executed for last 4 days and 5 days, and today is the sixth day of the same session. Let's introduce our guest. Fahmida is going to play a host as well as guest role. And we have Woni, she is from Spain, and Fahmida is from Sri Lanka. So without waiting more, I would like to pass the dais to Fahmida. Fahmida, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Darshan Patel, and a very good evening to you all, Mr. Darshan and you, Mr. Patel. It's great to meet you, and certainly is a pleasure to be joining this discussion.
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
New normal in education is our topic today.
Yes.
Provoking discussion and a much awaited topic, I would say. Today, we shall be exploring new avenues of how education on the aggregate can be devised to suit the growing demands of the ever-changing and ever-evolving context of life. Although applicable to many, our specific targets lie with early years of education and how SANE can be engineered to prepare our children to confront the world as a resilient, confident individual. Life itself has been significantly divided into two main segments. One of that being is our professional lives. How one shall conduct themselves in the corporate arena is certainly influenced and impacted by the upbringing and the knowledge fed into the brain and minds. To perceive this scenario from a practical perception is what remains a challenge to many. The life of a child evolves around many stakeholders. Teachers and parents do play a vital role and are definitely at the top of the food chain. Yvonne, please join me here and to commence this. What do you believe is the right angle for education in the current context, especially with the epiphany of the pandemic that has rung a loud awakening alarm in us all?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that strikes my mind is how quickly children have evolved over these last few months. I frequently have been in schools and I work with schools online. And I think we all have to realize that children have become so literate. Digital literacy now is going to be a big area for us. And the fact that we have very young children starting nursery who are literate in a different way than they were before. And as you know, we have our traditional. I actually think we're going to have to step back and reflect that if children are starting school with this knowledge, we can't just start them off with the things we used to do in a traditional way. We're going to have to look at what we can do now to harness what they've learned and bring that together with a different kind of methodology.
So in that sense of methodology, I understand it's not only the educational platform, it's also the stakeholders who have a need to change their perception towards what is best. Now,
Yeah.
what does this mean? How do we define or how do we benchmark this certain word, best? I need my child to be the best. I need to teach the best education, the best curriculum. How do you think we can actually come into a mutual agreement that all stakeholders can come into a mutual consensus upon?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we've got to think about as a parent, we often reflect on our own education and think, well, I did all right. You know, how the way I learned was fine. And we've got to take into account that things are changing very, very quickly. Also, a lot of curriculums that have been designed are decades old. A lot of them are out of sync and have had change like IT and other areas put into the curriculum. And I think what we've got to do is go right back to the basic, the foundation stage, and look at creativity. Also look at social and emotional learning. These are huge chunks that need to be embedded into this. And equally, that children are constantly creating their learning environment. As an adult, we tend to compartmentalize it. You've got to do a bit of art, you've got to do a bit of drama, you've got to do a bit of quality. But actually, for children, this is a process that's going on all the time. And we have to look at how we're going to address the trajectory of these traumas. So it's going to be challenging. If we think about India, they have the new MEP coming in, and that's going to be a big leap forward into using multi-sensory way of teaching and learning. So we're getting there little by little.
Yes, indeed. I think a multi-layered, a multifaceted approach, especially focusing on social emotional intelligence, because I believe that children need to be molded into a future-ready person. It's all about now that we have been focusing. As
Yeah.
parents, as spectators, we've seen of how much of competition lies there.
Yeah.
In even educating, we tend to push the child into deep waters, not knowing how much of negativity and a negative mindset that we build within them.
Yeah.
If we step back, observe, and understand how a child needs to be molded, it needs to be an individual approach, especially where comparison comes into play. Don't you think so?
Oh, definitely. And I think you've touched on a good point there that we tend to think about education and only being the best. And, you know, every other person now has a degree, so that doesn't make you any different. And every other person's got an MBA and it moves on like that. The difference now to make a child equipped for their professional life and their, you know, family life and everything is developing social and emotional skills early on in early years. And although these are looked at as additional things that can be popped into various parts of the curriculum, it's something that should be going on all the time. Longitude studies in the US have showed us that children who were given social and emotional learning throughout their early years and it continued did successfully. They were very, very well in their successful life, their personal life, and they were generally very happy people. So this is another one. I'm glad you brought it up actually, that we need to focus on. It's not only the academic side, it's also the development of the child, their personality, their empathy, and how they relate to other people. It's hugely important.
Very well said. I couldn't agree more with you, Yvonne. I mean, especially with this pandemic, we've understood how much the digital space has become a savior and also has become a dominating aspect of our lives. In bridging the gap between digital literacy and the conventional methods of learning, we might have to understand how education can be actually layered along with digital platforms. Today, we see that children are more creative, are more sharp in their skills when coming to presenting work in the digital space or on digital platforms, for example, presentations versus writing. When
Yeah.
you would when you would request them to do a specific essay, their literacy in that would be comparatively a bit low, but in their presentation skills and in their speaking skills, it's very apparent that children are able to demonstrate their capabilities and abilities on a much higher level.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, there is a degree of worry that children who are developing their language skills. This comes through something called motherese, the interconnection they have with their parents. That talking, that babbling goes on for speaking. And one of the things we are noticing is that children who are using tablets, the process is completely different. That they're listening and they're not speaking. It's all receptive. So we've got to look at that area. And equally, what parents have realised that being at home is how quickly their children are learning online. Perhaps they're not learning in a traditional way, but the way they can navigate and use the tools is something that would take us a long time. So it's a case of getting the balance right, a blended approach. And we use that blended approach where we're using partially the digital technology and also the traditional way that children can get the foundation skills that are needed, the reading and the writing, which is fundamental, but also that they're using the digital skills. So we have to look at this, but also we have to look at teacher training. And although we're not looking at that part now, it's worth mentioning that teachers have to be ready to approach this style as well. And that we can get both from both worlds, the traditional and the digital.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Agree. Yeah. I just would like to voice that some of our audience, they have joined with us. So just let me acknowledge them, those who have joined.
Certainly.
At the same time, they have expressed that there is a concern about the voice quality. So if we can, fix the microphone or the audio. In the meantime, let me acknowledge them. So thank you, Kajal ma'am. I think Kajal is from India. We have Deepak ji. We have LinkedIn user. I think I know that person. He's from Australia. We have Sakuntala Waghela from Gujarat. And Sakuntala ji, if you can give a feedback exactly from which location you are in. So I think that will help us. And we have quite many more who has logged in. I wish them to put their comments, their involvement in the existing show which or talk show which we are going through. So please post your comments. I think that will encourage us to give the answers as well as to resolve your queries. Over to you, Farmida. Mostly I
Thank
think
you so
audio
much,
should
Mr.
handle that.
Darshan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Jointly, I and Yvonne would like to thank all the viewers who have joined in. And moving on to the very important, the fundamental part of this circle is the social media pressure that is influenced parents and teachers.
Yeah.
Again, defining the best.
Yeah.
I think social media, the platforms have actually disturbed, clogged our minds, clouded our perception of what we need to be collaborative and cooperative towards children, not dominating their lives.
It has been extremely challenging for a lot of parents where schooling has been online because the biggest thing was the change in the children's personality, the addictive nature of being online, and equally the fatigue, which went on to aggression or tiredness. So we have learned something there that we need to have a balanced approach again if we go back online, and equally understanding how a lot of things that are online are designed to keep children hooked online. The addiction, the endorphins, the addiction is there. So again, what we have to do is get a balance in that. I know a family that did a digital detox. And what they did is they had scheduled times for the child to be able to be online on a digital device. And the children got around that. But it wasn't easy. It took about 3 weeks. It took about 3 weeks of arguing to get that. But again, we can't take it away because it will always be there. What we have to do is look at the way that we can manage it adequately, age appropriately, and again, parents have to think rather than put my child on a tablet to get 30 minutes of peace and quiet, what else could I do? And it's a shame. We've all done that, let's admit we've all done that, but has its time and its place.
Well, parents actually do play a vital role. It's more than the teachers that the parents are under pressure in trying to get the best out of their kids. How is my child going to face the future? How is my child going to be projected as individuals, civilized, learned, and respectable people. But I would also like to focus that parents need to understand that the ever evolving context of the corporate arena, the required skill sets and competencies are very apparent. It involves conflict management, conflict resolution, problem analysis, being empathetic, being resilient, being resistant, and also to make secure choices, decision making abilities. When all these are set in place, I think parents now have to understand that the child in early years needs to develop these through peer to cooperation and in their early years.
Yeah, I mean, totally. That goes back to what I was saying about social and emotional learning. And you know, mindfulness is not a new thing. It has been around for a long time. But what we do know is that in early years, role play, stories, being able to talk about how you feel, your likes and your dislikes, being able to have empathy, develop awareness, that gives you the skills and strategies that are needed for later life. And it also makes you feel secure about yourself. And that's something that we have to invest a little bit of time on now. More so since we've been in isolation. You know, the fear for children going back to school and re-establishing their friendship groups, it must have been hugely challenging, hugely challenging. And somehow they've gone back and done it. But we don't know what's going to happen again. And equally, we've lost the ability to see the whole face, the smile, the expression. And for us, we can manage that. But for young children, that's how they interpret emotions, the whole face. It's time again. So yeah, we'll see. We've learned a lot from this. Learned a lot.
Also, I also understand that parents are also facing challenges in expressing such concerns. And it was a comment that could COVID-19 be considered as a 1 year fun break? And how are we supposed to overcome these challenges? Because parents being the main stakeholder, the control, however, lies within educational institutions and teachers. Parents are hardly allowed to intervene into that platform.
Yeah.
So how
Well,
can this just be overcome?
Well, initially, if you can imagine from being a teacher, one day you left school and then the following Monday you told you were teaching online. And there was this initial kind of wave from parents saying, this is the best thing ever, hands-on teaching, we're at home with our child. And then that soon trickled off when they realised how complicated it was getting an in-class curriculum online so quickly. And parents were all about the way teachers interacted with children. So I think we've all had to learn a new skill set in that way. And I know that many teachers who've gone back have taken on board what parents have said. And there's also parallel planning going on for if they go online or if they go back into class. But parents also be able to see their child. Now, the child you have at home is completely different to the child you have in the classroom. So that also gave parents the opportunity to recognize that their child perhaps did have behavior issues, or perhaps did not pay attention, or couldn't understand concepts, or wasn't learning something. So it worked both ways, really. It opened the door to a different understanding of the child and also the education system.
Well, you made a valid point there, Yvonne. Children are different at home and different at school. They do have two faces, but are parents willing to accept that? Now, when a child arrives back at home, he or she wants to be in a very relaxed manner. But we parents do not allow them. We do not step back and observe. We do not engage in fun activities. Rather than we just want them to go studying more, go study, get good grades, get better grades. The fear of failure is instilled at very early stages. And look at the curriculum today. It's very complicated. In Sri Lanka, what I understand is a 2 year old is studying something equivalent to a 5 year old during my times. Yes, I understand that times have developed, civilization has taken a bigger leap, and we are all being affected by industrial developments. But does that mean that the human mind should be re engineered, a 360-degree transformation?
I think what we're understanding is we do have cognitive milestones and they are not going to change too much. But what we do recognize is that if we rush through too quickly, that foundation stage cannot be recovered as quickly because childhood is the shortest period of our life. It has the most rapid physical and mental development. And also what we're doing is putting in that we're scaffolding everything for later on in education. So there's some things that we do understand, that giving a child a toy, like a digital device, they work it out super quickly, but their emotions aren't developed, their writing skills and connecting with what they see, the letter shapes and letter sounds, that side takes time. The brain is not ready at 2 years old. However, a 2-year-old can navigate a game on a pad. So that's where we have the balance. What are they learning to do quickly? And what can they do cognitively? So we have that little gap, and that's the gap that we have where the new way of learning has to come in somewhere in the middle there. Like what they can do and what they can't do. What can we not fill it with, but develop through play, through interactions, through social emotional learning, through blended learning, flipped classroom, cooperative learning, collaborative learning. There's all these ways, STEM and theme, all these fantastic projects that get children using both sides of this. But we need to start young, and it needs to be passive, and children need to play. Play organises everything they learn. Key language, mathematics, social skills, interacting, problem solving, and play is just a part of an additional part of the curriculum, but it's huge in children's foundation.
Exactly. As you just said, the gap has to be exactly addressed here. But when we talk about this combined methodology, this blended methodology that involves a pedagogic approach that actually goes into the real minds of children to understand how they need to be nurtured, what do you think? As we've now understood the what, the how remains the question. How do we implement this, and what would be the possible recommendations that we could actually give the parents who are open to these recommendations?
I mean, it is going to be a case that we have to look what were children actually doing online. At first, the first few months it was plodding through the books that we use in class and trying to adapt them. And then the last bit, it was a government directive here saying that you're going to pass every child. They're not going to be evaluated. They're going to be allowed to pass because it was unique circumstances. Now, what if these unique circumstances carry on for a few years? Where do we stand? And most teachers have gone back during this parallel where I'm teaching the curriculum, but I'm going back and revising what I should have done last term. This step forward, step back, step forward, step back, which we always do, but it's much bigger now. And I just saw a question there. What can I be doing to make sure to fill the gap of what happened last year? So it's looking for the right kind of activities that are revising what you've done so that you can assess where the child is now. So it's a lot of looking at your curriculum criteria now and what can I build into that activities that will show me how can I assess the child's reading, writing, their level for language. Looking at the right type of activities that I can use that's passively assessing them rather than aggressively assessing them. And that's where the skill comes in of knowing what to do and not to do. And also a lot of our children are walking through a second language. It's difficult in that respect as well. So I think ways of doing it, but it's knowing how to do it. And that's what we're discovering, the how. So as you say, we know why we have to do it, it's now how. And yeah, I'm working on it.
Yes, we've all, I mean, as I said, the new normal is in education is the much awaited topic. It's the topic of the century where everybody is exploring new avenues to understand. Because it's very apparent if that theoretical approaches are not going to help a child to find the future. How to tread upon the rough patches of life? How are we going to face challenges? And what would be our attitudes when we are confronted with a challenge? What would be our mindset when we are in the challenge, in the bubble?
Yeah, I mean, children today are hacking into their education. If they have to do a project, they're not going to spend time. They Google it, they copy and paste. They look, so they retain the information they need to retain. That's for sure, you know. But they also are highly skilled at using tools to look for the information they need. And you know, it's a perfect expression, hacking into what they need for that. And very quickly, a 9-year-old boy I know. He did a spectacular presentation, you know, animation, 3D, sound, everything. And I said, it was amazing. And he said, well, you know, it could have been sharper. But the point I'm making is, if we had to do a paragraph, I would not have got the amount of information I got from that. So he was hacking into education. He was using all the tools to give a dynamic presentation. And none of that would have been reflected in the half a page. I could have looked for grammar, you know, and seen how he did. But this also gave me insight into him. So this is what we're looking at, unfortunately, this kind of presentation and how we assess it.
Yeah. So quite interesting, I think, Hamida and Oni, it's going great. But time is not on our side. I think we have to conclude this session. But before we conclude, would like to take certain questions. So we have a question from Anup. Hamida, if you can take this question.
Yes, it's Mr. Anup Singh who says how to manage the gap created in the past 6 months about children education. How should teachers approach when schools are going to open back? I think it's actually going to be a very challenging one, don't you think so, Yvonne? Because it's
and from the point of a teacher, if you're looking at the curriculum from where you need to start at, it's a case of you're going to have to look at the last term's curriculum and build in concepts from that into your curriculum that you have this term to make sure that the children are on track. We can't just leap way ahead, and we can't leave the term either. So I do understand, and what I have been doing with teachers is looking at the key points of last term curriculum and seeing how we can build it into this term's curriculum so that at least there's some observation, assessment, and we can plan ahead. And it's a tricky process, but at least looking for the key points, such as language development, grammar development, mathematical development. We're kind of doing a parallel teaching, but focus on where we are now and where we were and bringing them together. So hopefully by the end of this year, children are kind of where they should be and where you want them to be.
There is one more question from Sakuntala. If we can take...
Yes, the children being more smart to the use of social media and technical know-hows at this young age. It may be diverted in the right direction practically. We can expect their brain to develop more. Are we making them more addicted to it? As we were just discussing, it could dangerously go onto one side or joyfully to the other. It's how we parents, it's how we parents, it's us and our kids at the end of the day. How we cooperate and collaborate with them. Don't expect the teachers and the educational institutes to take over your child's future. How much are you engaging with them? Paying fees, buying their books, and making sure that they're dressed well to school is not where our responsibilities end. Understand what your child is doing every day. I think that is actually a topic for another whole conversation. But we need to
Definitely.
exactly.
Okay.
Fundamentally, the thing that I would say is you really do need to make sure you're talking to your child. Your child is receptive. They're hearing. We want to get that language out because what you hear, what you say, what you see is what you write. You know, fundamentally, they're all connected. We can't miss out on the loop. So it's a much bigger conversation that I hope we have. Yeah.
Great. So along with that, would like to express our gratitude to several audience, those who have said good words about us. So we have Hemaji who have said a great session. We have Jyoti Dahiya says very interesting conversation. We have Sunny said a special comment for Voni.
Hold the children to new learning. Yes.
One more comment from Saniji that re-engineering the mind, 360-degree change. Yeah. And I think that's all Deepak ji has given a comment. Kajal ma'am has given a comment. So I think everyone who is associated with this movement is quite excited about contributing, encouraging us. And now with this encouragement, let's take it forward. Like, so let me just brief everyone about the future plan, what we are proposing and what we will be doing in near future. So along with this learning to learn week, which is just a trailer, it's not an actual picture. The picture is still remaining. We are just came together with a brief idea. We have tossed this idea, discussed with Saniji, and said that why don't we do this? And it has worked out so well. Within 3 days, everyone was so excited, got connected, and they have given a solid support. So all the educators, those who came on the platform, like 13 plus educators came on the platform, plus 10 more educators has given us a support from the background. So with that, we have achieved a success with very less planning. And normally when I say about planning is over planning kills creativity. So we have not done over planning, we have not done over engagement, because that kills, ifs and buts, kills so many things. So rather than that, we have just executed, and I'm very happy to say that we have very well executed sessions. At the same time, we have created this bond between people, those who are in various time zone, various geography. Just like yesterday, I was having a conversation with Voni that she is managing her schedule in multiple time zones. So I think that is giving us that flexibility or that openness to open the possibilities for the future. And I think this momentum which we have gained now, these connects or collaboration we have created will work at an individual level. Maybe, Fahmida will be collaborating with Boni in future and creating some endless possibilities. At the same time, collectively also we will work on several projects. And that's the beauty of collaboration. So I would like to have final words from Fahmida first and then from Boni about the beauty of collaboration, how collaboration can bring wonders to education.
Of course, Darshan sir. You always say coming together is a beginning. Working together, it's actually kind of very joyful. It's motivating, but doing work together, collaboration is the ultimate success. Teamwork creates championships. This platform, when I collaborated with many, I understood of how much we could weigh upon, how much we could depend upon all other strengths and weaknesses. What we all learn, we are all illiterate in some portion of our lives. We are not all geniuses in all aspects of life. For example, myself and Yvonne, when we collaborated, we understood of how much we look into the same topic through two different perspectives, and those two different perspectives merge to create a new avenue. And that is the beauty of collaboration. When you collaborate, you are able to learn more, you are able to observe more, and at the final stages, you are able to create more.
Great, I think. And let's have a final word from Voni and then we will conclude because we are running out of time.
Right, so, yeah. I think the way to look at it is one view is a narrow view. Many people's view opens up opportunity. We're constantly learning from each other. So we can't learn in isolation. I'm learning from this and you're learning from me. The constant exchange makes us better human beings, and knowledge is power. So collaboration is important. And I'd like to thank you both very much for giving me the opportunity to share today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So we will play a small video and then we will say bye-bye to everyone. So thanks a lot for being part of this initiative. And let's play a video.
I love it.
I love it.
Universal.
I'm very inspired.
Natural.
Very, very exciting experience.